All right, so today what we're going to talk about is the risk management and liability issues that may arise while you're doing your internship. And so that's kind of one of the issues that sometimes happens is that we need to be aware of potential risks and liability issues as we're out there working. Because again, it's part of the learning experience, but you want it to be a good learning experience and not having some of those problems come up as you're doing your internship. So here's a couple things to keep in mind. And again, it'll be uh, review from what you talked about with probably Dr. Lovich earlier in your career here. So as an intern and employee of an organization, you have both general and legal duties that you have to do, right? And so a duty to act as, and this is the big thing, you have to act as a reasonable, prudent person would under those circumstances. Okay, so a lot of times you'll hear reasonable, prudent. What's your training? Don't go outside your training. Did you follow protocols and guidelines that are set up by your agency? Those are the important things. Are you following those guidelines? If you are, you know, CPR and first aid certified, did you stay with what the training that you had would be? That's reasonable and prudent person, and not going outside those trainings or level of expertise. For a facility, as a lot of times you may work in facilities and be responsible for maintaining a facility. Basically, it's you got to keep the facility in a safe manner under the circumstances for the invitees, for those people that are coming to your site, participating in your events. You got to make sure that your premises is maintained in a reasonably safe manner. You have to make sure that everything and everybody is kept safe at all times? No. That's part of why people are seeking out recreation and sport, because there's always a risk element to it. There's always a level of uncertainty. But maintaining in a safe manner, acting as a reasonable, responsible adult, now you're setting yourself up to be effective when it comes to risk. Just want to throw out, a tort. One of the things you probably covered in risk management, a tort. Tort is any act or omission that gives rise to injury or harm to another. And then this amounts to a civil wrong that the court can impose a liability on you. So again, a lot of times torts come back to going outside your level of training, not doing the minimum standards that a reasonable, prudent person would do to help prepare for an activity or an event, or going against protocols or procedures that are outlined by your agency. So where can they occur? We see them happen in a lot of different realms here. That may include, problem solving. It may include emergency situations, minor injuries, supervision of children. A lot of internships come back to supervising of children. We have several, particularly in the summer. I have a lot of students out there right now that their responsibility is going to be supervision of children. Use of equipment and how to properly use the equipment. Again, a lot of people get in trouble because they don't use the equipment in the proper manner. Cleanliness of the facilities. A little diagram up there, somebody slipping. A lot of times that comes back to just making sure and maintaining a clean environment for the people to participate in. Safety of the facility, and that safety comes back to, not only physical safety, but then also sometimes the emotional safety and maintaining that environment for everybody, and everybody feels like they're welcome and a part of it. And food handling. What else can be out there? And I'm sure the list that goes on and on as far as things that you have to keep in mind when you're looking at your ability to act as a reasonable, prudent adult, as well as maintaining the safety of the environment that you're working in. So remember, negligence is an unintentional tort. So we did a mission or did something wrong, but it was unintentional. But the thing always has to be shown is that there was a duty there, that you owed the people something. You had the breach that of that duty, causation, so that breach definitely led to the damages, and then that you also have to have those damages in place. You can't say, but I didn't mean to. That comes out a lot. When you probably did that a lot when you were a kid, and you did something that you weren't supposed to. Oh, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean for them to get hurt. I didn't mean for damage to be done. But it doesn't matter. You can still be held liable. So that's risky. So how do we go about managing it? And we talked about risk management. Risk management is just that course of action designed to reduce risk or loss to sport participants, recreation participants, spectators, employees, management, organization. So we're trying to prevent loss. Risk management comes back to preventing loss, whether it's financial, participant, the facilities, equipment, all those things play a part in risk. And so your agency is going to have steps and procedures to manage that risk. And it's important for you to understand those and follow those, that you, again, don't put yourself in a situation where you're, negligent. And a lot of where internships will have a orientation, and that first orientation and that first couple days of orientation are all about risk management and understanding the risk that goes along with it. So what's the number one goal of risk management? Number one goal, safety. We want to try to maintain a safe environment for our participants and for ourselves. And again, one of the best ways to avoid lawsuits is try to keep people safe as best you can. Now, can we keep everybody safe all the time? No. And that's not realistic to think that we can. But we do have to make the best effort that we can to try to keep people safe. Okay, so avoidance of lawsuits will result from this. So, but we want to keep people safe. As an intern / employee, you will find yourself in charge of tasks and perhaps people. So one of the things Rudy Giuliani came out after in 2012 talking about 9/11 and the attacks of 9/11, and he said, if you prepare for everything you can think of, you'll be prepared when the unthinkable happens. And that's an extreme situation that hopefully we're never in, but we want to make sure that we try to, as leaders, as managers of recreation sport, try to think of different elements that could arise so that you're prepared when those things do happen. So agencies, probably never have had a tornado hit their facility, but guess what they have in place? They have procedures and a plan for when that does happen, so that they can get ready to, they knew how to react to it. It seems like overkill, but if you think about it now, you can plan for it when it does happen. In leadership, we talk about playing what if, and playing what if can become an important aspect about risk management as well, because you want to think about what could possibly happen and how you're going to handle it. Okay. Most lawsuits against facilities, coaches, administrators result from the following: failure to provide proper equipment, and sending athletes out there or participants out there, and they're not properly equipped for whatever activity they're doing, or the equipment doesn't fit them correctly. Again, you're running the risk of being found liable in a lawsuit. Failure to provide and supervise student athletes during practice or game or match. Again, leaving the student athlete unattended, and or failure to provide adequate supervision while they're doing practice or games. So if, again, getting much more tougher to volunteer for coaching positions, because agencies have to cover their rear ends. They have to make sure that the people are um, trained and trained properly, have background checks, because you don't want to run the risk of putting your student athletes in a situation where they're working with somebody that doesn't have the background or doesn't have the proper skills to lead them. Encouraging student athletes to play when injured or ill. Probably somewhere of you have had that in your life where you were encouraged to play even though you were injured or ill. Again, putting that person in that situation, it's better to err on the side of caution. Parents may not like it at the time. Student athlete may not like it at the time, but you're looking at the big picture and making sure they stay safe and healthy. You know, when it comes down to it, if you make them play hurt, even though the parent and the athlete wanted to do it, then they get hurt, they change their mind, they come back after you. Again, you just don't want to put yourself in that situation. So if there are, and you can see the protocols that are come out now with concussions to try to keep people safe and avoiding this exact situation. Failure to inspect the area. When I worked in Parks and Recreation, one of the first things we did every day was going around and inspect the area that we were working in, the playgrounds, the fields, and making sure that they were safe and no issues had arisen over the night or during the day that could cause injury to our participants. Failure to inspect equipment on a regular basis. And then failure, once you recognize that there's a dangerous situation, not taking steps to help correct it and rectify those dangerous situations. Again, puts yourself at risk for issues there. Failure to warn those about possible hazards. A lot of agencies and facilities get themselves in trouble because they don't tell that there's a possible hazard there, even though you think, gosh, people aren't that stupid not to recognize it. They are. So you got to make sure that you cover those and make sure that you let people know that there's possible hazards there. McDonald's and telling people that the coffee's too hot, okay, or the coffee's hot. Well, duh, but there's a reason why they did that, because they got sued. Okay. Failure to give proper, clear, safe instructions. Again, as a leader, as somebody that's supervising people, you've got to make sure that you give proper instructions and make sure they're clear and cover safety. What are the safety issues that may arise within that activity? And then not having the proper equipment for medical issues. A couple years ago, we were doing a Senior Olympics over in Williams-Brice, and group was playing bingo. One of the people, I guess, got too excited, had a heart attack, passed out right there. Luckily, we had the AEDs and medical personnel on right there, and they were able to resuscitate the individual and get that individual to the hospital. Again, that was quick acting by the people there, as well as making sure we had the proper equipment there to help that individual. How can all these be avoided? Inspect your equipment, look for issues there. Inspect the facilities, give clear and thought out directions, control the atmosphere, control the environment as best you can to maintain that level of safety. Have knowledge of where and how to get that medical assistance. Again, orientation, your internship sites should tell you that right off the bat. Hire qualified personnel. Establish rules for facility usage, making sure you follow those facility usage rules. I see it all the time. Williams-Brice, people propping open the door, letting people sneak in. Again, something happens there. Somebody from outside the college gets in and causes problems. That's an issue. Right? So we have to make sure that there's rules and guidelines in place and how to try to minimize those issues and providing that proper supervision. Keep in mind, this may be more difficult than it sounds because a lot of times we have limited resources, money, and facilities. Okay, I'm going to stop here and we'll pick up the next part here in a second.